Hello, my name is Ruby. If you're new to this channel, I am a professional tarot reader, psychic, and astrologer. And today we are going to be talking about tarot and oracle deck recommendations for fall 2023. I'm so excited to be making this video because I am a tarot and oracle deck collector. I love tarot and oracle decks, and I also work with them both personally and professionally in a manner that is seasonal and cyclical. So there are certain decks that definitely pop out at certain times of the year to be worked with. Something that is reflected in astrology and in tarot and in the practices of witchcraft and paganism is this concept of life being seasonal and cyclical in nature. And I definitely feel my work with tarot reflects that theme of life. So there are certain decks that I walk with all the time, and there are certain decks that I work with in certain seasons. So these are the decks that have called out to me to work with for fall 2023. So I'm really excited to share them with you. This is a pretty extensive list, so I will try to move through it as quickly as I can while still giving you all the information that you might need while picking what deck feels might be calling to you. And I have more oracle than tarot. I'm a lot more selective about my tarot decks than I am my oracle decks, so there's going to be a lot more oracle on this list than tarot, but all of my tarot recommendations I really stand behind. I am so passionate about tarot, which is why I'm so picky about it. So let's begin. Let's jump in. So the first deck that I'm going to be working with in fall and that I am so excited to start working with is Tarot of the Abyss. I just did an unboxing of this on my channel. I've already been using it to read both personally and professionally. And, as we move into the fall season, I do feel like it's this time of reflection, of starting to draw inward. It's a very magical time of year. It's a time of year where we start working more with the darker goddess, Hecate, the Morgan, Santa Muerte. And this deck is it's so empowering and it's so reflective of the work that we can do with these darker goddesses. And it's just calling to me. Like this Empress, look at this. This is to me so fall, so autumn. So I would highly recommend this deck. If you can only get one of these decks, I'm loving this. I just got this and it's an instant favorite. Instant staple in my collection. This is the Tarot of the Abyss. I believe the author is Anna Turian. I think so. So the second tarot deck on the list is the Santa Muerte Tarot by Fabio Listrani. This is one of my favorite decks of all time. And as we move into fall, we approach Samhain, the Sabbath, and the day after that is the Day of the Dead. I work with this deck year round. It is one of my ride or die staple decks, but I will also be pulling this deck out a lot more, I'm sure, for fall. So that is the Santa Muerte Tarot by Fabio Listrani. And the next deck on this list is the Murder of Crows Tarot. I can't remember the name of this, but this is a mass-produced deck. It's published by Los Scarabeo, as is the Santa Muerte Tarot. You can find all of the decks I have talked about so far on Amazon. Corrado Roy is the creator. And this is probably up there for me in terms of favorite decks. It's not quite in my top 3, but it's close. And this is more of a cyclical deck for me. That's probably why it's not in my top 3. This deck doesn't always want to talk to me. But as we've been approaching fall, I want to say in the last week or so, this deck was like, okay, it's time to start working with me again. And it has this very moody, macabre type energy. This would be a great deck for working with Lilith, the Morgan, Hecate. It's definitely more of a horror themed deck. I don't find this deck to be overly confronting, but it's definitely honest. I use this deck a lot when I'm asking about like deep ancestral patterns in my life, in the life of my clients. So it definitely has those underworld qualities to it. But I love this deck so much. It's really up there for me. And this is probably the primary deck I will be working with this fall in tandem to the Tarot of the Abyss. So big fan of Murder of Crows. Okay, so the next deck on my list is the Tarot of Vampires by Ian Daniels. Now, I want to share a little story about this deck. So this is not a deck I would have ever purchased on my own. Now, I love the artwork. It's this very like heavy metal, like 80s goth, glam rock type artwork. So I like it, but I probably would have never gone out on my own and purchased this. But one of my tarot readers who I really love, she has her YouTube channel, OwlMoon513, I think is her YouTube name. She's amazing. This is one of her favorite decks, and I tend to really agree with a lot of her opinions about tarot and oracle. She raves about this deck. I think this is her all-time favorite deck. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get this deck. I like tend to vibe with all of the decks that this woman likes. So I'm gonna try this. And this deck has the best guidebook I have ever come across. The guidebook has a different name. It's called Phantasmagoria. It is included in the bundle with the deck when you purchase it, but it's like this big old giant book. And if you are new to tarot and you are really looking for the most extensive guidebook with so much wisdom in it to learn from, get this deck even if you're not super into vampires. This deck has really surprised me, and I use this deck a lot for relationship readings for clients. And generally, like relationships that have an air of like conflict to them, or my client is wondering if the relationship is good for them, if they're being fooled, should they leave. But with this beautiful like 80s horror movie, campy artwork, this is such a great deck to read with. I'm reading at a horror festival in the end of September. It's my second time reading it. I love it. And we're bringing this deck. It's going to be Tarot of Vampires and maybe Murder of Crows at the horror festival. Kind of like my dream place to read with my dream horror decks. Okay, so this is Tarot of Vampires. Look at the beautiful back by Ian Daniels. Even if you don't love the artwork, if you are a tarot super fan, you're gonna like the guidebook. So this is my last deck on the list for tarot. This is the True Black Tarot. This is the only deck on the list you cannot find on Amazon. This is an independently produced deck. It is more expensive. This is the guidebook. And this deck is just so luxurious. This is like my Louis Vuitton bag of tarot decks. Like, it's all black. The card work is like smooth. Like, you could sleep on these cards and just get the most beautiful night's rest. This deck was a gift from a friend and I love it. I find that I'm very selective of when I bring it out because it just feels so nice. Like, I want to preserve it. But it has these blacks and these golds, which I feel is just such an autumn vibe. Such a fall vibe. And I'm realizing as I show you all these decks that I really use fall as a time of introspection and shadow work We're not quite in winter, but there's just such this quality of fall being a liminal space. Of course, we have the Sabbath of Samhain, which is when the veil is so thin. And so, I don't know, this deck is fall and winter vibes for me. And with all of the black and gold, I just feel like it has this like autumn, the changing of the leaves type energy to it. If you are looking for a investment deck to add to your collection and you are drawn to the artwork, I don't think you'll be disappointed by this deck. This is the True Black Tarot. Okay, so that's it for tarot decks. We're gonna move on to Oracle. The first Oracle deck on my list is Mausolea of Souls, illustrated by Jason Engel. This is definitely a shadow work deck. It is centered around these energies, these archetypes of the underworld. And this deck is an amazeballs clarifier to tarot. This deck reads incredibly accurately. I have done readings for clients where I almost used this deck like I would use a tarot deck, doing like 5-card spreads with it. So this is a very versatile deck, and it's a very honest, truth-telling deck. And as we move into fall, where there is this opening, this threshold for us to work with these underworld energies, the underworld not being evil, but primal, primordial, and sometimes more confronting, I do find this deck to be an incredible ally. So that's the Mausolea Oracle of Souls. The next deck on the list is the Wild Woman Oracle. This would be so beautiful to pair with the True Black. So this is not so much a shadow work deck as I feel like it is like a sacred feminine, wild feminine type energy deck. It is created by Cheyenne Zarate. This is the box. I got this in the spring and was just like, this is a fall deck. So even look at the back. It's like, to me, this is so fall. So I've been really saving working with this deck and diving into this deck for this time of year. And I just pulled it out and put it on my reading table. And I really love this deck. I think it's a sleeper hit. When I first unboxed it, I have an unboxing for it on my channel you can find. It's published by Rockpool. You can find it on Amazon. I was like, okay, this is cutesy. Like some of these cards I really vibe with, like this one, which is like some of these cards are kind of cutesy. Like I wonder how this will read. This reads bang on accurate for me. I've used it as a clarifier for tarot. I've used it as a daily draw. I was doing a lot of past life readings for my clients last week, and this came out in almost every past life reading I was doing. So a very accurate, on the nose clarifier. Really enjoying working with this deck, and it just feels like fall to me. Like fall is my favorite time to read fiction. It's just, this is like the type of deck where you like brew yourself a cup of tea and you like settle in and yeah, drop into another world. So that's the Wild Woman Oracle. And the next deck on the list for Oracle for fall is the Lantern Oracle. The author of this is Angelina Mirabaito. Probably butchering her name. It is published by Blue Angel. This deck is a therapist. This is what I would consider to be a shadow work deck. It is very clear and very insightful. And I have done some really good therapy work with this deck. Like this deck and the guidebook and the journal I was working a lot with in January, February of this year. And I feel like I integrated a lot with this deck. And I also use it for clients. This is the other oracle deck that I use with past life readings very, very heavily. I have not done a past life reading for a client where this deck did not come out. I would say this would be a great winter deck as well. So transitioning from fall to winter, the crone energy is really alive in this oracle deck. This would be a beautiful deck to pair with the Tarot of the Abyss. Just in terms of the energies, I find would be very complementary, not necessarily the artwork, but the energy is very similar to the Tarot of the Abyss, just in terms of the perspective that it offers and the medicine that it holds. So this is the Lantern Oracle. I love this guidebook when I'm doing personal work. If I'm using this deck for clients, I work with it a little differently. I read from it more intuitively. When I'm using this deck for myself, I'm definitely using the guidebook as a resource to supplement that work. All right, moving on. Les Vampires by Lucy Cavendish. I got this deck at Ritual Craft a couple years ago, which is a witchcraft store in Denver, which is amazing. And I was checking out, the person that was working roasted me for getting this deck. And I was like, I know, it's seems silly. I'm just feeling called to it. This deck has been one of my greatest allies as an oracle reader when I'm doing shadow work type readings for clients. It is very clear, accurate, confronting, definitely reveals what is hidden in the subconscious. I use this deck a lot for myself to ask about the motives of others. This is by Lucy Cavendish. And this would be a wonderful deck to pair with the Tarot of Vampires. So this would be a great little pairing. I got this way before I got this. This is definitely, if I could only have 5 oracle decks to read for clients with, this would be one of them. And as we move into fall, it has that horror type, dark fall aesthetic. So that is Les Vampires. If you are looking to do heavy shadow work, I might go with the Lantern Oracle. I find the guidebook for the Les Vampires deck to be very confusing. I don't really like it. It took me a while to connect with this deck because Lucy Cavendish is very authoritarian about the use of her guidebook. She really wants you to use them. So I was using this deck with the guidebook and I was so confused and was not connecting with the deck. The minute I ditched the guidebook is when I found my sweet spot with this deck. So you might have a different experience. Figure out what works for you. But if you get this deck and you are really struggling to connect with it, maybe try ditching the guidebook. All of those decks, all of the oracle decks I'm talking about today, you can get on Amazon. The next deck on this list is the Oracle of the Dragonfey, also by Lucy Cavendish. I don't know why this is a fall deck for me. There's nothing overtly in this deck that would suggest that the best time to work for it is fall. I got this deck in the fall a couple of years ago. Maybe that's why I associate it with fall. When I take this deck out and try to use it when it's not fall, unless it's very much calling to me, I just can't read with it. These are the backings, which have, to me, very autumnal colors, fall colors. I love dragons. Dragons are very powerful for me, spiritually. That's a video for another day. But this is a lighter deck. I definitely think that you can do some deep excavation work with this deck, but at least the artwork and some of the names, there's this whimsical fantasy type feeling. So this is Oracle of the Dragon Fae by Lucy Cavendish. See, this just screams fall to me. This is a fall deck. I don't know why. This is the fall deck. So if you don't have a dragon themed or fairy themed deck, this would be a good one. So that is the Oracle of the Dragon Fae. I've never used this deck to read for clients. I've just used it for myself personally. So I can't speak to how this would work reading for somebody else. I've only ever used it to read for myself. That is also the truth for this next deck, the Magical Botanical Oracle. I've only ever used this deck for self-work. Again, I'm not sure why this feels like a fall deck to me, other than it has like study academic Earth Witch vibes. Like this is a deck you're gonna have to study with unless you are a master herbalist. Like you're gonna want to read the guidebook, you're gonna want to study the guidebook extensively before you use it intuitively. These are the backings. This is published by Llewellyn or Lo Scarabeo. It's written by Christopher Penczak, who is a wonderful witch, a master witch, I think one of the masters of the craft. And again, this has like these like book illustrations to them. This would be also great for Tarot of the Abyss. This would also pair great with Murder of Crows. It has all of the astrological correlations to it. This deck just screams Virgo season to me, which we are about to move into. I also think that this deck would translate great into the winter months. I got this deck a couple months ago at the shop I work at. They had it in stock, and I love working with herbs magically, and I love Christopher Penczak, and the card work, the card illustrations are just so beautiful. So I've had it for a little bit. I've only done daily draws with it. I haven't worked with it too extensively. I feel like it's coming out for Virgo season for me. Look at this one. Oh, we love it, we love it, we love it. So I get Hecate vibes from this deck. So you could also use this deck to work with Hecate if you are a practitioner of the craft and work with that particular goddess and energy. I would say if you like working with decks intuitively only and you're not interested in studying a guidebook, this is probably not the deck for you. If you're looking for a deck to do that with that's oriented around herbalism, I would go with the, what's it called? It's like my favorite deck in the world, the Herbal Astrology Oracle. All right, so the next deck on this list is the Compendium of Witches by Natasha Alinkich. That's probably not how you say that. This deck is a really interesting oracle. It's very original. This is the guidebook. It has all of these different archetypes of the witch, which I think is so fall. The backs are so fall to me. It has this beautiful like Celtic type imagery and artwork. And it has this very storybook feel. Apparently I associate this like storybook fantasy energy with fall. But it includes all of these archetypes of the witches and then also symbolism that accompanies these archetypes. I haven't used this deck too much in depth, just being honest. And I have never used this deck to work with clients. I think I got this deck because Racine recommended it. The reader who is responsible for why I have Tarot of Vampires. I was like, okay, if she likes it, I'll probably like it. But it hasn't called to me to work with too in depth. I've done a little bit of card draws here and there with this deck. But when I was compiling my Oracle decks for this video, this one was like, pick me, pick me, pick me. I was like, okay. So either one of you that watches this needs this, or I'm supposed to be working with this deck for fall, and it definitely has fall energy. And I love the archetypes. This is the Priestess. So that is the Compendium of Witches by Natasha Linkich. Y'all, I'm really bad with name pronunciation, so I apologize for anyone's name that I butchered. Last Oracle deck on the list. This is the Santa Muerta Oracle by Fabio Listrani. I use these together. Same deck creator. I use the Santa Muerta Tarot way more than I use the Santa Muerta Oracle. I have a chip on my shoulder around Los Scarabeo guidebooks. I think they're garbage. It has nothing to do with this deck creator. This is a beautiful deck. The publishing company makes garbage guidebooks 90% of the time. Once in a while, they do better, but not often. This deck is very cool because if you put all of these cards, all of these backings together, it creates a spirit board, a Ouija board. It doesn't get more fall than that. This is an amazing deck to connect with Santa Muerta, to connect with ancestral energy. As we approach Dios de los Muertos, this would be a wonderful deck to work with. I like to use the Santa Muerta tarot deck for my spread and then draw one of these for a clarifier. I do use the guidebook for this deck to get extra insight on the meanings as ascribed to each card by the deck creator. But I've also been known to use this Oracle deck intuitively. I only have used this deck for myself. I have not used it for client readings, even though the Santa Muerta Tarot is one of the decks I use most for client readings. So I don't know why. Maybe it's a little too, maybe the artwork's a little too confronting and scary. Not for me, but I'm reading for so many different types of people. Sometimes people see skulls and they get scared. So this is the Santa Muerta Oracle. So that's all I have for you today. Clocking in at 30 minutes. I'm surprised that I was able to actually fit all these decks in that amount of time. I'm proud of myself. So if you could only get one tarot deck and one oracle deck, I'm gonna let you know what I would pick. This is so hard. I would have said the Santa Muerta tarot deck until like 2 days ago. I would maybe get Tarot of the Abyss. This might just because I'm in limerence with this deck right now. I have some new relationship energy with this deck, but all of the tarot decks I talked about are bananas amazing. Like the cream of the crop when it comes to tarot decks. You can't do anything, like, you can't go wrong with these tarot decks. My top 3 would be Tarot of the Abyss, Santa Muerta Tarot, and the Murder Crow. So if I could only pick 3 tarot decks out of this list, it would be those 3. If you can only get one oracle deck, get the Lantern Oracle, published by Lou Angel. This oracle deck is bananas amazing. If you can only get 2, get this in the Mausolea Oracle of Souls. They're all great. They're all really thoughtful and accurate and bring so much to the table, but we're all on budgets. So if you could only get a few, those are what I could recommend. If you end up working with these stacks and you get something out of it, please let me know. You can like this video, you can leave a comment. I read all of them. And as always, I am sending you so much love and wishing you well.